We thought it was just us, until we heard a laugh that didn't belong to anyone. That night the air was still and heavy, the kind of air that makes every sound feel louder than it should be. There were 6 of us, each armed with a flashlight and a fake sense of bravery. We were just kids, bored out of our minds and chasing thrills where we shouldn't. The graveyard on the edge of town had always been a place of local legend, creepy, overgrown, and said to be cursed. But to us, it was the perfect setting for a night of mischief. The idea to play hide and seek wasn't mine. I don't even remember who first suggested it. It just sort of happened, like all bad ideas do, fast and with too much enthusiasm. It was probably Alex or Maya. They were always the ones pushing us into things. But once the idea was out there, nobody wanted to back down, not in front of each other, not when we had so much to prove. We set the boundaries, the main path, the line of old tombs and the fence by the woods. If anyone crossed that fence, they were out. Simple rules. Safe enough, right? At first, it was all laughter and nerves. We ran off into the night with a countdown echoing behind us. I remember ducking behind a crumbling statue of an angel, her stone face worn and cracked, her wings broken. I could hear my breath bouncing off the marble as I waited, heart thudding, like a drum. One by one, we were found. The seeker, Danny, was good at the game. Too good. His footsteps would vanish, and then suddenly he'd pop up behind you with a grin. Every time he shouted, "Found you!" it would send a jolt through the night. We all took our turns, switching roles, laughing too loud, pretending we weren't jumpy. Then came the 4th round. I remember it because it felt different. The laughter faded faster this time. The shadows seemed heavier. I thought maybe the clouds had thickened above, or maybe the night was just getting to us. Either way, something had shifted. It was Maya's turn to seek, and she had this grin, that "I'm going to catch you all" look, as she started counting out loud. The rest of us scattered. I hid behind an old, sunken grave. It was colder there, like the ground had soaked up something ancient and unfriendly. I stayed low, trying not to breathe too loudly. That's when I heard it. A laugh. Not far from me. Not one of us. Not the kind of laugh you expect from a friend. It was soft at first, like someone trying to hold it in. Then it grew louder, breathier. Wrong. It wasn't joyful. It was mocking, cruel. The sound of someone who knew we didn't belong there. At first I thought maybe Alex or Danny was playing a prank. Maybe they were trying to scare me. But as I sat there frozen, that laugh moved. Not walked, moved. Glided, almost, past the graves and around the statue I had hidden behind earlier. I wanted to call out, but something inside told me to stay quiet. I clutched my flashlight, thumb hovering over the switch, but I couldn't bring myself to turn it on. The laughter circled like it was looking for someone. Then it just stopped. No footsteps, no rustling leaves. Just dead silence, heavy and pressing down like a weight on my chest. Seconds felt like minutes. My knees ached from crouching, and every hair on my body was standing on end. I finally stood up, heart pounding, and crept back toward the path. That's when I saw Maya, standing there pale, holding her flashlight like a weapon. I could see the panic in her eyes before she even said a word. She'd heard it too. The footprints went in, but never came out. It was late, probably past midnight, when we reached the far corner of the graveyard, the part no one ever talked about. The trees were thicker there, casting long, twisting shadows that seemed to breathe with the wind. We had been playing hide and seek for nearly an hour by then, and the thrill was wearing off. What had started as a joke, a dare, a way to pass the night, was quickly turning into something else. The laughter had faded. The teasing stopped. Everyone felt it, but no one said anything. We just kept playing, too stubborn or too scared to admit we were done. It was Danny who saw the movement. He froze mid-step and whispered, "There! By the crypt!" We all turned to look. Just past the leaning tombstones and overgrown grass, A shadow had darted into the mouth of a collapsed mausoleum. It was quick, too quick, but definitely real. We all saw it. It looked like someone had gone inside. At first, we thought it had to be one of us, maybe Alex, or possibly June. But we did a head count. Everyone was accounted for. All 6 of us standing there, wide-eyed and silent. No one was unaccounted for. No one should have been inside. Danny, always the brave one, or maybe just the dumbest, decided to go check it out. He clicked on his flashlight and started toward the entrance while we hung back, huddled in a nervous cluster. The mausoleum looked ancient, its stone walls cracked, vines crawling up its sides like veins. The door was missing, or maybe it had rotted away long ago. Inside, it was pitch black, a gaping hole in the earth. We watched as Danny approached. The beam from his flashlight was weak, flickering slightly, as if protesting the direction it was, being pointed. When he reached the entrance, he crouched down to inspect the ground. Then we heard him say something. Just one word, but it made our blood run cold. Footprints. He turned and gestured for us to come closer. Reluctantly, we followed. The ground was soft there, damp with old leaves and patches of mud. And there they were, a trail of footprints leading directly into the mausoleum. Clear prints, pressed deep into the earth. Bare feet, no shoes, no socks. Just long, narrow impressions like someone had walked into the crypt without bothering to wear anything on their feet. We stared in silence, following the trail with our eyes. The prints stopped right at the edge of the interior. But then, nothing. No prints came back out. None. We looked around the area. The mud was undisturbed. The path behind us was empty. If someone had gone in, they hadn't come out. Not by foot, not by crawling, not by any route we could see. Danny stepped back. His face had gone pale, and for once, he didn't have anything sarcastic to say. The air around the entrance felt colder than the rest of the graveyard, like something inside was pulling the warmth away. One of us, I don't remember who, called out. Just a name. Maybe to see if whoever was inside would respond. Maybe to break the silence. But nothing came back. No echo. No answer. No sign of life. We waited a minute longer, straining to hear anything. Then another minute. The stillness was heavy, like even the insects had stopped moving. I couldn't stop staring at the footprints. They were too perfect, too deliberate, like someone had wanted us to see them. Like they had left a trail just for us. And yet, there was no sign of where that someone had gone. One of us was tagged, but no one was there. The night had already taken a strange turn. The wind had picked up, rustling through the dead leaves and brittle branches like whispers brushing past our ears. We were deeper into the graveyard now, far from the gate and any sense of comfort. Shadows stretched long and crooked across the path, and the moon kept slipping behind clouds, as if it didn't want to watch what was happening. But we kept playing. Something about the fear made us keep going. Like stopping would be worse. It was Alex's turn to seek. He was always the most competitive, the loudest in the group, always pushing to keep the fun going. He counted loudly, giving the rest of us time to scatter. I found a hiding spot near the iron fence, crouched behind a statue of a kneeling woman whose face had eroded into something unrecognizable. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might echo off the stones around me. I could hear Alex moving through the graves, calling out fake names, trying to trick someone into responding. His voice was confident, joking, just like always. It calmed me a little, made me feel like maybe everything was still okay. But then his voice changed. There was a pause, a hesitation. "Got you," he said suddenly. I heard the rustle of bushes, the crackle of leaves, then silence, a long, uncomfortable silence. I assumed he'd found someone, maybe June or Danny. But after a minute, no one emerged. No sound of footsteps running back. No triumphant shout. Just stillness. the kind of stillness that makes your skin crawl. Then, we heard Alex again, but this time he wasn't shouting. He was calling out confused. "Who was that?" he asked. At first, no one responded. We didn't understand what he meant. We figured he was messing with us again. But then he walked into the open space at the center of the graveyard, and we all slowly came out of our hiding spots, one by one. I saw June step out from behind a tree. Danny emerged from the side of a mausoleum. Maya and Liam walked in from opposite ends of the path. All of us were accounted for. Alex stood there, pale and shaking slightly. He looked at each of us like he was trying to do the math in his head, like something wasn't adding up. We asked him who he saw. He didn't answer right away. He finally said, "I tagged someone. I swear I did. I saw someone crouched behind the tomb near the statue. I snuck up behind them and tagged their shoulder. They were cold, ice cold. I thought it was one of you." We all looked at each other. No one had been near that tomb. No one had been hiding where he said. We asked if maybe he saw wrong. Maybe it was a shadow, or his imagination, or the chill in the air getting to him. But he insisted. He said he felt the fabric of a sleeve, the texture of hair. He felt someone move. They flinched when he touched them, but when he turned to see who it was, there was no one there, no footsteps, no sound of someone running off, just empty space. He said it felt like his hand passed through something, like the person had been solid one moment and then gone. None of us could explain it. We went to the tomb he pointed out, half expecting to find someone crouching, laughing, trying to prank us. But the area was deserted. The ground was undisturbed, no footprints, no signs of movement. And that's when the cold settled in again. A pale hand reached out from behind the gravestone. It happened in the middle of the 5th round. By then, our nerves were frayed, and even the smallest noise made us flinch. We had already experienced enough strange moments that night to question whether we were really alone out there. But something about that round felt heavier, like the night itself had thickened around us. The kind of silence that doesn't feel empty, but full. Like something is holding its breath and waiting for you to notice it. Maya had gone to hide first. She always picked the furthest spots, the darkest corners. She said it made the game more fun, more challenging. The rest of us scattered too, but my legs were tired and my flashlight was starting to flicker. I settled behind a leaning gravestone near the center of the cemetery. Not too hidden, not too obvious. The stone was old, cracked in the middle, the name barely visible under layers of moss and dirt. I crouched low and tried to stay still, listening to the faint crunch of footsteps from someone searching. I wasn't sure who the seeker was that round. I think it was Danny, but the fog of fear and confusion from earlier events had already started dulling our memories. All I knew was that I was alone behind that gravestone, breathing slow, eyes scanning the shadows. The cemetery was strangely quiet. Even the wind seemed to have died. I could hear my own heartbeat, feel the tension in my muscles as I tried not to make a sound. Then I heard it, a soft, scraping noise. Not far, just on the other side of the stone I was hiding behind. My first thought was that someone else had chosen the same hiding spot. Maybe Maya, maybe Liam. Maybe we'd laugh about it once the game was over, scaring each other by accident. I didn't speak. I just stayed still, listening. The scraping came again, closer, slower, like something dragging across stone, and then the hand. It crept around the side of the gravestone, reaching out into the moonlight just inches from my knee. It was pale, almost grey, with long fingers and chipped nails, the skin wrinkled like it had been underwater for too long. It moved, slowly, deliberately, as if testing the air. It didn't look like any of our hands, not dirty, not covered in soil or leaves, just wrong. I froze. My entire body locked up. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. The hand paused there, twitching slightly, like it was waiting for something. It hovered, fingers spread, reaching forward bit by bit. I wanted to scream. but nothing came out. My mouth was open, my throat tight. I couldn't take my eyes off it. It was right there. I could see every unnatural curve of the fingers, the strange bend in the wrist. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, it jerked back, fast, like it had been yanked. I scrambled to my feet and backed away, nearly tripping over another stone. I turned around, heart pounding, and looked behind the gravestone. Nothing. No one was there. No figure crouching. No person lying flat. Just grass, weeds, and stone. I looked down. The grass wasn't even disturbed. There were no impressions in the dirt. No sign that anyone had been hiding there at all. The area was still, untouched, as if what I had seen hadn't actually happened. But I knew what I saw. I remember the exact shade of that skin, the way the fingernails looked chipped and rotted, the sound of the hand scraping against the old stone as it reached out. I wasn't imagining it. It had been inches from me, reaching, searching, waiting. The game started at midnight, but something else finished it. We had waited for the clock to strike 12. It wasn't just about hide and seek anymore. It was about the thrill, the tradition, the stupid dare that had lived in the town for years. They said if you played the game in the old graveyard exactly at midnight, you wouldn't be alone. We'd all heard the stories. Kids vanishing, shadows that followed too closely, voices whispering names that no one else could hear. But none of us believed any of it. It was just a game, just a story. So when the church bell began to toll, we stepped through the rusted gate, one by one, flashlights in hand, the air thick with dew and something colder than the night. There were 6 of us, buzzing with a mix of laughter and unease. The graveyard was bigger than it looked during the day. At night, it seemed endless. Rows of crooked stones stretched into the fog, and the statues of saints and angels cast eerie shapes across the broken paths. We huddled together by the old tree at the centre. Alex, the loudest among us, took it upon himself to explain the rules again. One seeker, the rest hide. Boundaries were clear. Stay within the fence. If someone gets tagged, they join the seeker. Last one remaining wins. Classic rules. The only difference this time was the setting and the hour. Maya offered to go first. She leaned against the tree, covered her eyes, and began to count. The rest of us scattered. I sprinted toward the back edge of the cemetery, weaving through tombstones and ducking behind a large square monument. I could still hear her counting, slow and steady, her voice echoing in the cold. At first, it felt like any other game. I waited, heard the rustle of someone running past, muffled laughter in the distance. Then a scream, not loud but sharp, like someone had been startled. We all thought it was just part of the game. Someone got found. But then another scream followed, closer this time, less playful. When I peeked around my hiding spot, I didn't see anyone. No flashlight beams, no footsteps, just fog rolling low. Across the grass, I crept forward, calling out softly, hoping someone would respond. Instead, I heard something else, the sound of counting. But not Maya. This voice was deeper, slower, each number drawn out like it was savoring every second. 8, 9, 10. It came from somewhere near the old mausoleum, far off, the path. I turned in that direction and saw the outline of someone standing still, back straight, arms by their sides, too tall to be any of us. The figure wasn't holding a flashlight. It wasn't moving, just standing there, like it had been, waiting for its turn, and then it turned around. I ducked back behind a tombstone, heart slamming against my ribs. I didn't know what I saw, but I knew it wasn't one of us. I stayed there, trying to calm my breathing, when I heard footsteps. Fast, erratic. Someone was running. June came flying out of the trees, wide-eyed, gasping and yelling that something had grabbed her arm. She didn't know what it was, only that it wasn't anyone she recognized. One by one, we started to gather again near the tree, shaken, quiet. Someone was missing. Liam. We called his name, walked the paths, shined our lights behind every stone. No answer, no movement. Just that same unnatural silence, like the graveyard was holding its breath. We decided to end the game, but something about it felt unfinished. It wasn't just the missing person or the strange figure. It was the realization that none of us had actually tagged anyone. None of us had finished a single round, but someone, or something, had kept playing. We left the graveyard, but one of us never made it out. When the game finally ended, or at least when we decided it was over, the atmosphere was heavy with dread. No one laughed. No one talked about who had won. We didn't even care anymore. Something had changed out there. What started as an innocent dare, a midnight thrill, had unraveled into something darker. The silence between us said more than any words could. We knew something had been with us. Something that had been watching, maybe even playing, and it wasn't finished. The graveyard was different on the way out. The fog had thickened, swirling around our ankles, making it hard to see where the path ended and the grass began. The gate, which had once seemed rusty and laughably weak, now looked like the only thing that separated us from something we couldn't explain. I kept looking behind me, even though I didn't want to. I was afraid I'd see someone, or something, following. We moved quickly. No one ran, but we walked faster than usual, sticking close. Alex kept glancing to the side, like he thought someone was walking parallel to him through the headstones. Maya kept whispering to herself, maybe a prayer, or maybe just trying to stay calm. Danny wouldn't speak at all. He had been the last one to go looking for Liam, and he came back pale, eyes wide, shaking his head like he didn't know how to explain what he'd seen. We were almost at the gate when we realized June wasn't with us. It was so sudden, so seamless. We didn't even notice at first. Someone turned around to say something to her and she wasn't there. We stopped. We called out her name. Nothing. No echo. No footsteps. Just the fog, thick and still, swallowing our voices. Panic set in immediately. We spread out, fanning through, the narrow rows of stones calling louder. Flashlights flickered across marble markers and broken statues. I thought I saw movement near the angel statue, a shadow ducking out of sight. But when I reached it, no one was there. Alex swore he heard footsteps in the grass, but they led nowhere. They stopped abruptly, as if the person walking had vanished mid-step. Maya found something near the bench by the chapel ruins. It was June's scarf, still warm, still twisted like it had just slipped off. That's when things changed. We felt it in the air. The wind stopped. The trees stood motionless. There was no sound, not even insects or the creaking of old branches. It was as if the graveyard had swallowed the noise, just like it had swallowed June. We didn't stay after that. We couldn't. Something about the way her scarf was lying there, perfectly placed, made it feel like a warning, like a message. We ran. We didn't care about rules or paths or staying together anymore. We just bolted, following the fences until the gate finally appeared through the fog like a beacon. One by one, we made it through, out into the street, under the glow of the flickering streetlights that suddenly felt safer than they ever had before. We gasped for air, half from fear and half from running so hard our lungs burned. We looked back at the graveyard. The gate stood open behind us. The path was empty. The fog had started to pull back, revealing the twisted shapes of the tombstones again. But there was no sign of June, no voice calling for help, no footsteps running to catch up. Just that same silence. That same awful, pressing silence that had followed us since the moment the game had begun.